Hey everybody, welcome back to the NC State Insider Podcast. I'm your host and lead beat writer for NC State on SI, Tucker Sennett, back again with another episode here of the podcast talking Wolfpack football today. But actually, we're going to dive into the ACC as a whole because college football is back this week. We got a little appetizer last weekend with week zero, had an ACC game there that we'll talk about, but we're going to go through the full ACC slate for this weekend and predict how the conference is going to do in terms of wins and losses, and we'll give a pick on each of those games, and we'll see how we do come Sunday when these games are wrapped up. So we'll just acknowledge that Stanford started the ACC off with an 0-1 record with that week zero loss at Hawaii. That was a tough game for the Cardinal. Could have been one of Stanford's only winnable games this season. They're going to be, towards the bottom of this ACC this year. It could be a long year on the farm for Stanford and Andrew Luck as he tries to rebuild that program in his general manager role. Thursday, we got two games for the conference. Obviously, NC State kicks their season off on Thursday with that home game against East Carolina. We already predicted that, Daniel Rios and I, yesterday and the day before, talked a lot about that game. And this episode will be coming out on game day. So that's we've predicted that to be a win for the Wolfpack. We think they get the job done against that in-state opponent. We'll see how it all turns out. The other ACC game on Thursday is Duke hosting Elon, an FCS opponent. That should be a win for Duke in a year where they're really expected to take a big jump under Manny Diaz. There's a lot of hype in that program. They got some money coming in, and they're starting with a buy game of sorts, and the hope is that they are able to get that done pretty emphatically. So those are your two ACC games on Thursday. Then we move on to the Friday slate. We got Wake Forest hosting Kennesaw State. I believe this is their second year as an FBS program, so they're pretty new to things. Really struggled a year ago. They will likely not be winning that game. I think Wake Forest should comfortably take care of business there, even though they're one of the weaker teams in the ACC, just because Kennesaw is sort of new to the FBS format and competition. It is a level up, and I just don't see that being a win or much of a competitive game. But I could be wrong because Wake is sort of a big question mark with all their roster turnover and a new coach. The other Friday game is an exciting one. One of the ACC's most intriguing teams, a team that could finish towards the top of the conference. I know Daniel is pretty bullish on this Georgia Tech team, but they have a tough week one matchup on a Friday night. They're going to travel to Boulder to face Deion Sanders in Colorado. Um, I think while Haynes King is a really talented quarterback and they have some serious firepower on that offense, it sounds like Colorado's done a really nice job balancing that roster out after the losses of Shedeur Sanders and Travis Hunter. So you don't have that star power, but it seems like this is the first year where they're not going to be totally dependent on those two to sort of carry them to wins. And I think, if they're better on the defensive side of the ball this year, I think that's a really tough road environment, especially in an opener. And if they get some solid quarterback play from Liberty transfer Caden Salter, I think this is probably a loss for Georgia Tech out of the gate. I think they course correct over the course of the season and turn into one of the ACC's better programs. But I just don't like that road trip to open the season in a hostile environment. So those are your Friday ACC matchups. Then we get to the meat of the meal, the entree of sorts, which is the Saturday slate. Get started early with a noon kick for Syracuse, a neutral site game in Atlanta at Mercedes-Benz Stadium. They'll take on number 24 Tennessee in one of those kickoff events. I forget which one it is off the top of my head, but Syracuse is sort of in a rebuilding phase after they lost so much production after that impressive 10-year season a year ago. But Fran Brown has that program on the rise. They're really strong. I just don't see them beating an SEC opponent right out of the gate, even though Tennessee's sort of experienced some similar turnover issues and obviously some quarterback drama in the offseason. I trust an SEC opponent a little bit more to handle those kinds of things than an ACC opponent, especially a coach in sort of the early stages of his tenure. Then we have Pitt scheduled to host Duquesne. That's a win. Don't need to spend much time on that. If Pitt is really expected to be competitive in the ACC, that should be a pretty easy game for them. Boston College hosts Fordham. That also should be a win. That's an FCS opponent. Boston College is well coached by Bill O'Brien. Should be a pretty easy win. Louisville, sort of the dark horse of the ACC, is hosting Eastern Kentucky in another bye game. They've historically done really well in these kinds of matchups. Going back to when Lamar Jackson was there, they used to put up some serious numbers, and they'll want to put on a show in front of that home crowd. So that should be an easy win for the Cardinals. Then an intriguing matchup for Florida State. They will host Alabama. That's number 8 Alabama at Doak Walker or Doak Campbell. Sorry, not Doak Walker. Doak Campbell Stadium in Tallahassee. So it is a home game. FSU, another team with a lot of question marks. Tommy Castellanos in there at quarterback. I just I'm not in love with him. Daniel and I talked about this a little bit. We don't have super high hopes for this program this year. It's another kind of very transfer heavy team. There's certainly been some more movement towards actual recruiting, and there are some homegrown players on this year's FSU team. I just think Alabama's loaded, and Kalen DeBoer wants nothing more than to start year two with a win over a notable opponent, given the way the last season ended. So I got Alabama getting a win there. University of Virginia hosts Coastal Carolina. That should be a win for the Cavaliers. That's something that Wolfpack fans probably will be interested in because Virginia is the week two opponent for NC State. So that'll be one I know Dave Doran will be watching, among other members of the NC State staff, to get that first look at the Cavs. Then we got Clemson in a number 4 Clemson in a ranked matchup, a top 10 matchup. This is the prime game against LSU, number 9 LSU, coming to Death Valley to face I guess they're both Death Valley, but coming to Clemson Death Valley to face the Tigers and Dabo Sweeney. I think Clemson probably wins this one. I know some people are feeling very, very bullish about LSU this year. Brian Kelly's got, his quarterback in Nussmeier back. They have some serious talent, as always, at wide receiver. The defense is supposedly improved. I think that's such a difficult game to open up with on the road, that orange just blaring in your face. I believe this is the first time in a while that we've had a prime time game for LSU or for Clemson like this, if that makes sense. I'm trying to think of the last top 10 matchup in Clemson. It's been a little bit of a wait of late, just because the ACC's been down for a while, and then they were down briefly. But I think this Clemson team's really talented, and The other reason I like them is LSU, I believe, has not won a home opener or has not won an opener since Brian Kelly became the head coach. They've really struggled in this spot. So I'm banking on history here, and I'm rolling with the ACC. I think Clemson gets it done. Then to wrap up the Saturday slate, you got SMU hosting East Texas A&M. That's a bye game. That should be an easy win for the number 16 Mustangs. And the late night kick, because we got West Coast teams in the ACC now. We got Cal away at Oregon State in a throwback Pac-12 matchup. Um, Oregon State, I think, should be a solid team again this year as a member of the Pac-12, but more or less an independent. Um, they, I just am not confident in this Cal team this year, and I think weird things, given my upbringing watching Pac-12 football, weird things happen in Corvallis up there. I know that's might sound weird to you ACC fans, but it's always a place where things go wrong for teams, and I don't see Cal being able to pull this one out. I could be wrong. I'd say that's one of the larger coin flips on the slate. Then we got two ACC games on Sunday. Virginia Tech in another Atlanta neutral site game will play South Carolina, a ranked South Carolina that has really high hopes for this season, especially with quarterback Lenore Sellers back. And I think Virginia Tech's in some real trouble there. I think that's a pretty ugly loss for them. I think that South Carolina team is really talented this year. And then the Sunday prime matchup is Miami, number 10 Miami, hosting number 6 Notre Dame. That is a huge ranked matchup. It won't have the playoff implications that it might have back in the day, but there's some obviously you got Catholics versus convicts being rehashed here, and some serious rivalry juice. I lean Notre Dame. This is a team that was just in the national championship. I know it's a relatively new team, but I just think they get that run game going, and I don't trust Miami's defense. After a year ago, I know there's a lot of talk that they've improved greatly, but I have to see it to believe it. So I'm banking on the championship experience of Notre Dame in this one. And then finally, a Monday night game, a game day late in Chapel Hill with the ESPN crew for Bill Belichick's debut as the North Carolina Tar Heels head coach. The Tar Heels will host TCU and head coach Sonny Dykes, a couple years removed from that national championship run. TCU is an interesting team. They have a returning quarterback. Obviously all Sonny Dykes teams are going to play fast and score the ball. So it'll be interesting to see how Belichick's defense translates to the college game, especially against an offense that is very college-y, if that makes sense. It's one of the more notable college systems that Sonny Dykes has. It's very Big 12. So that's an exciting one. I think North Carolina probably ekes out a win there, just in front of the home crowd, get that Belichick era underway with a win. So that would uh, that would have us with one, two, three, four. If you include Stanford, five, six ACC losses out of the 17 teams in week one. So a solid start for the conference. Obviously not elite, but they have a lot of tough games, and it'll be interesting to see how the rankings shake out after some of these games. Like, does Miami take a huge tumble if they lose to Notre Dame, even if it's not a blowout? Florida State, could they pull off an upset and climb in the rankings? That's certainly in the cards. I don't see it happening. And Georgia Tech, if they go in there and get a win, another game I don't see going that way, but if it does happen, do they climb in the rankings? So these are all things to watch throughout the weekend for the ACC, and obviously I'll be at the NC State game tomorrow, giving you all the coverage you need from there. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at Senate Tucker, as well as the NC State Facebook page, or NC State on SI Facebook page for more content there, and also the NC State on SI Twitter page, which is at Wolfpack on SI. All sorts of content coming your way. Video, game updates, game threads, etc. It's going to be, you're going to get everything you need. And it's going to be a great start to the football season. Glad to be back. Very exciting stuff. As always, thank you very much for tuning in to the NC State Insider Podcast. Have a great day.